Hello, welcome to Lesson 8 in this basic Greek course. Let's take a look at the concepts that we will be covering today. We'll begin with the personal pronoun forms. Then we'll do some practice together. Thereafter, we will look at the uses of the emphatic and intensive pronouns. And then, as we've been accustomed to doing, we will look at some new vocab together and finally finish off with translation work, where we will practice the concepts as well as the vocab that we've learned. So I hope that you are excited about studying and learning together. If you're ready, let's get going. So before we look at the forms of the Greek personal pronouns, it's important that we actually understand what a personal pronoun is. So you may know, and if you do, just see this as a basic reminder. So a pronoun is a word that takes the place of a person or a noun. So let's look at the first one together. They can replace a person. So here's an example. John, which is the subject in the sentence, is taking Greek. And John is very excited because John is going to see John's parents at the beach after final exams. All right, so in this sentence, as you can see, if we keep using the name John, that it becomes very, very redundant. And we can actually streamline this sentence by using personal pronouns. So instead, we could actually write, John is taking Greek, and he is very excited because he is going to see his parents at the beach after final exams. So instead of repeating the subject John, we can replace his name with personal pronouns. The second way that a personal pronoun can take the place of something is by taking the place of a noun. Look at this example. The pen is green. The pen is digital. All right, so pen is a noun. But instead of using pen, we could say the pen is green, full stop. It is digital. It, because pen is neither masculine nor feminine. All right, so very basically, a personal pronoun is a word that takes the place of a person or a noun. All right, so as in English, so in Greek, there are different forms of personal pronouns. We have the first person, the second person, and the third person. The first person is generally the person or group doing the speaking or communicating. The second person is the person or group being spoken to. And the third person is everything else. So you should be familiar with these different persons because of the verb endings that we have learned so far. But just to remind you, first person singular would be I or me, and the first person plural would be we or us. The second person singular is you and your, and the second person plural is also you and your. And then the third person singular is he, she, it, and the third person plural is they or them. So if you're not too familiar with these different forms, I want to encourage you just to take the time to learn this table because it will make learning the different Greek personal pronouns a lot easier. So let's begin with the first person personal pronoun forms. We are going to learn them beginning with the nominative, then the genitive, dative, and accusative cases in that order, the singular forms, and then the plural forms. So let's go through them together. The nominative singular is ego, which translated is I. The genitive singular, as you can see here, we have a word that is in brackets or parentheses, and all these forms here in parentheses are what we call the emphatic forms. All right, they generally occur after Greek prepositions, and they are often used for emphasis. All right, so I just want to make you aware of what those emphatic forms are, but I want to focus primarily on these forms here that are not in parentheses. So the genitive singular, coming back to the genitive, is mu, which translated is my, because it shows possession, in brackets there, of me. Then the dative singular is moi, which we can translate as to or for me. So we supply the helping words to or for to indicate or show that the word is functioning as the indirect object. And then the accusative singular form is me, which is translated as me. So there's some similarities there between the Greek and the English. The plural forms, all right, so we begin with a nominative. We have hey mace, all right, and what you're going to notice is that there is a rough breathing mark, all right, for all the plural forms, which I want you to pay attention to. And so we're going to pronounce it with an H in front, and we translate that as we. The genitive plural is hey moan, translated our. The dative plural is hey min, translated to or for us. And the accusative plural is hey mas, which we translate as us. So let me go through pronouncing each one of those again for you. All right, starting with the singulars, we have ego, mu, moi, and me. The plural forms, hey mace, hey moan, hey min, hey mas. Let us now take a look at the second person personal pronoun forms, beginning with the singular and then the plural. So the nominative singular is su, which we translate as you. The genitive, dative, and accusative singulars also have emphatic forms, which are usually for emphasis. And you can see that they are very similar to the normal forms, except that they have an accent above the vowels. So the genitive singular is su, which we translate as your. So the nominative and genitive are very similar, except that the genitive has the additional omicron. The dative singular is soy, which we translate as to or for you. And the accusative singular is se, which we translate as you. The plural forms, right, you'll notice that they also have a rough breathing mark above the vowel. And just a note here, the only difference between the first and second person plural forms is the first letter. So the first person personal pronoun began with an eta, and the second person personal pronouns begin with an upsilon, as you can see here. So the nominative plural is humes, which we translate as you. The genitive plural is humon, which we translate as your. The dative plural is humin, which we translate as to or for you. And the accusative plural is humas, translated as you. All right, so let me go through those forms one more time with you. The singulars are su, su, soy, and se, and the plural forms humes, humon, humin, humas. Let us now turn our attention to the final personal pronoun, which is the third person. Now, whereas the first and second personal pronouns did not indicate gender, the third person personal pronouns do indicate gender. And so we need to make room for them. So that is why we have the masculine, the feminine, and then finally the neuter. All right, so we accommodate for the various genders. Now, even though there's a lot of information in this table, what I want to make you aware of from the outset is that all the endings of the third personal pronouns are identical to the first and second declensions. All right, so they are identical to the first and second declensions. The only exception is when it comes to the neuter gender, specifically the nominative and accusative singulars that do not have the new. All right, so you can see that they both end in omicrons, whereas the second declension neuter finished with a new. All right, so let's go through each one of these together, beginning with the masculine singulars and plurals. All right, so the only addition that you're going to see here is the ow, all right, at the front. Okay, let me highlight those for you. But besides that, the endings are the same as the second declension. So let's begin with the nominative singular. We have autos, which we translate as he. The genitive singular is autu, translated as his. Dative is auto, to or for him. And the accusative is auton, translated as him. The plural forms, beginning with a nominative, we have autoi, which we translate as they. Genitive is auton, translated as their. Then we have the dative plural, autois, which is to or for them. And then the accusative plural is autus, which we translate as them. So let me say those for you again. Beginning with the singulars, autos, autu, auto, auton. Plural forms, autoi, auton, autois, autus. All right, so we can notice the similarities there in the plurals. The genitive forms are all the same, auton. All right, let's move now on to the feminine forms. All right, so the nominative singular is aute. All right, because it ends with an eta, it's going to take the eta pattern, which is consistent with all the singular forms. So aute we translate as she, because it's feminine. The genitive is autes, we translate as her. The dative, aute, to or for her, and autain, which we translate as her. Moving on to the plural forms, the nominative is autai, translated as they. Then we have auton again, translated as their. The dative, autais, to or for them. And then we have, apologize, I should have added a sigma in there. So this is autas, which is translated as them. So let me go through the feminine forms with you. The singulars, aute, autais, aute, autain. Plural, autai, auton, autais, autas. And then finally, let's do the singular forms together. The neuter, our ta, translated as it, our tu, translated as its, dative, our to, or for it, and the accusative is our ta. All right, so we see that the nominative and the accusative singulars are identical, as well as the nominative and accusative plurals. All right, so the plurals, nominative is our ta, translated as they. The genitive is our tone, translated as their. The dative is our tois, to or for them. And then finally, our ta, translated as them. So those neuter forms again, our ta, our tu, our to, our ta. The plural forms, our ta, our tone, our tois, our ta. So let's do a practice example together. The instructions are: fill in the blanks with the appropriate pronoun, and then in the line below state the following. So the first thing is, what is the antecedent? In other words, which noun does it rename? Number two, which person, personal pronoun is it? Is it first, second, or third? Number three, what case will the pronoun be in Greek? Is it nominative, genitive, dative, or accusative? And number four, write the form, the Greek form of the pronoun used. All right, so our example reads as follows. Tom phoned. Please phone blank back tonight. Blank says that it is very important. So let's complete this together. Try and answer it before I give you the answer. Tom phoned. Please phone him back tonight, full stop. He says that it is very important. So let's do the first example together. So we have A, all right, so what is the antecedent for him? Well, him refers back to the subject, which is Tom. So we can write here, Tom is the antecedent. Personal pronoun him, it's a third person personal pronoun. It's case, all right, so it's functioning there as a direct object, so it's in the accusative case in Greek. And the form, I know you're not too familiar with them now, but it is going to be our ton. And then let's do the example of he. So the antecedent for he, once again, is also Tom. Personal pronoun, it's also a third person personal pronoun, but the case this time, it's now in the nominative case, and the form would therefore be our tos. All right, let's do one more example together. So our second example reads as follows. I let Anne borrow blank car today, and blank had an accident with blank. So let's fill this out. I let Anne borrow my car today, and she had an accident with it. All right, so let's do the example of my first. So the antecedent for my is the subject I, so we can write I. Personal pronoun, it's a first person personal pronoun. The case is genitive because it's showing possession, and the form therefore would be mu. All right, the next example with the pronoun she, the antecedent, it's referring back now to Anne, so the antecedent is Anne. All right, the personal pronoun, it is a third person personal pronoun. The case, it's functioning as a subject, so it's in the nominative case, but the form is the nominative feminine because she is feminine, so it's our te. And then the final part of the sentence, it, so the antecedent, it's referring back to the car. The personal pronoun, it's also a third person. The case is accusative, And the form, because a car is not masculine or feminine, we refer to it as neuter. We put the form there as our ta. Let's begin by looking at the use of the nominative personal pronouns. So it says there, because Greek verb endings usually convey the person and number, the addition of the nominative personal pronoun as a subject often expresses emphasis. So consider these two examples from the Greek New Testament below. The first one comes from John 11:25, where the Greek reads, ego, eimi, hei, anastasis, kai, hei, zoe. So there, the copulative verb eimi expresses the subject I. So we could translate this as I am the resurrection and the life. And so there's actually no need for a personal pronoun. But why is it there? Well, John has placed ego in the text, which is also translated as I, to express emphasis. So as Jesus made the statement, he wants us to pay attention to what he's saying. And so we could actually translate this fully as I am the resurrection and the life. And our second example comes from 1 Thessalonians chapter 1 verse 6, where the Greek reads humeis, mimetai, haimon, egenethete. And once again, the verb mimetai contains the subject you, so we could translate this as you became imitators of us. And so the presence of the nominative personal pronoun is actually not necessary, but it's there. Paul placed it there for emphasis. And so we could quite literally once again translate this as you became imitators of us. Right, so when you see a nominative personal pronoun that is functioning as a subject, it's often there to express emphasis to the reader. Well, personal pronouns can also function as intensive and identical pronouns. So let's have a look at this together. If a form of autos, all right, so this only involves third person personal pronouns. So if a form of autos modifies a noun rather than takes the place of a noun, it is functioning as an intensive or identical pronoun. Now, how would we know if a form of autos is functioning as an intensive or identical pronoun? Well, it says here, you can distinguish these pronoun uses from a third person personal pronoun because an intensive or identical pronoun always agrees with the noun that it modifies in gender, number, and case. Right, so normally a personal pronoun will always agree with its noun or its antecedent in gender and number, not necessarily its case. Its case is determined by its function in the sentence. But when you see a form of autos agreeing with its antecedent in gender, number, and case, then that should give you a clue that it's functioning as an intensive or identical pronoun. So let's dig further now and look at the intensive use. So when autos stands in the predicate position to the word it modifies, it is the intensive use. And then the identical use, when autos stands in the attributive position to the word it modifies, it is the identical use. So you probably can't remember the rules that govern the various positions. So let's quickly do some revision. Now, when I mentioned predicate position and attributive position, you might have forgotten what those two positions actually mean. So here are two helpful rules to remember once again. When it comes to distinguishing the attributive form from the predicate use, the following rules apply. So rule number one, if you remember, is when the article comes before the noun and not the adjective is always used as a predicate to rename a noun. Right, in this case, the form of autos is functioning as the adjective. And then in rule 2, when the article comes before the adjective, right, in this case, autos, it is always used as an adjective to modify, describe a noun. All right, so I hope that these two rules will assist you now as we look at the uses of the intensive and identical pronouns. Right, so firstly, the intensive pronoun, all right, it stands in the predicate position. So let's remind ourselves here. If autos, all right, remember we are just looking at the various forms of autos, all right, the third person personal pronouns. If it stands in the predicate position to the word it modifies, translate it as self. So look at these three examples. The first one is autos ha anthropos. So where's the article? It comes before the noun. So this is the predicate position. So we translate this as the man, all right, himself. The second example, we have hai ecclesiae autai. All right, so the article comes before the noun ecclesiae. All right, so we translate this as the churches themselves. And then the third example, we have ta hiron auta. Right, once again, the article comes before the noun, so it's predicate position. We translate it as the temple itself. All right, so all the forms of autos, all right, and these examples are in the predicate position, and therefore we focus on translating it with some variation of self. So here are two examples of the intensive form standing in the predicate position from the Greek New Testament. The first one is 1 Thessalonians chapter 4 verse 16. I'm not going to read all of the Greek right now, but I've just underlined the various forms of the personal pronoun in these verses. So the first one is autos, standing in the predicate position because the article ha comes before the noun, which in this verse is kurios, and that is translated as Lord. So our translation would be for the Lord himself. And then in 1 Peter 1 verse 15, we have autoi. All right, so we have the plural form here, standing in the predicate position. And we've also got hagioi. All right, so which is the noun. So we have translated, be holy yourselves. All right, so there's just two examples from the Greek New Testament of the intensive use. So let's take a look now at identical pronouns and the attributive position. If autos stands in the attributive position to the word it modifies, translated same. So the attributive position is as you're going to see here, when the pronoun and the noun both share the Greek article. So in all these examples, there is a sharing of the article. So look at the first example, ha autos anthropos. So here the article ha is standing in front of the pronoun and the noun, so we translate it as the same man. Then we have hei ecclesia hei aute, and once again both the noun and the pronoun share the article, so we translate this as the same church. In the final example, ta hiron ta auta, once again like the previous example, both the pronoun and the noun share the article, so we translate this as the same temple. Notice that in all these examples, autos, aute, and auta, that the pronoun agrees with the noun that it's modifying in case, gender, and number. All right, so that is a clear sign that it's functioning attributively and modifying the noun that it is partnering up with. Let us now look at two examples of the identical pronoun use from the Greek New Testament. The first one comes from James 3 verse 10. So we see there we have ek tu, autu, stomatos. All right, so we see that the article comes before autu, so standing in the attributive position. So we translate this as out of the same stomatos, which is mouth. And then 1 Peter 5 verse 9, we have here eidotes ta auta tone pathematon. All right, so it's outer is standing in the attributive position, so we translate this as knowing that the same kinds of suffering. Okay, so those are two examples of the identical use from the Greek New Testament. It's now time to look at our vocab for lesson 8. All right, so let's look at the first word together. All right, we have Allah, Allah, which means but or except. Next we have an adjective, which is alos, alay, Allah, alos, alay, Allah, which means other or another. Then we have our third person personal pronoun, the nominative forms, the masculine, singular, neuter, which you should be familiar with at this stage. It's autos, aute, auta, which we translate as he, she, or it. Then we have a preposition, which is dia, dia. So it can take its object in the genitive or accusative case. In the genitive case, we translate it as through, and in the accusative case, as on account of or because of. And let me just do all the prepositions in this vocab first. The next one is kata, kata. All right, when it takes its object in the genitive case, we translate it as down from or against. And in the accusative case, we translate it as according to. And then we have peri, peri, which when it takes its object in the genitive case is concerning or about. And in the accusative case, we translate it as around. Right, so those are the prepositions for this vocab. Our next word there is egero, egero, translated as I raise up. Then we have ego, which we've done in our lesson today. It's translated as I. Next we have heurisco, heurisco, which is I find. Next we have zoe he, zoe he, which is life. Then we have a, which is translated as or than. All right, and this word has a critical diacritic. All right, so it has a smooth breathing mark and an acute. Next we have nun, nun, which is now. And then our last vocab word for today is pistuo, pistuo, which means I believe. So guys, I just want to continue to encourage you to learn your vocab. The more vocab you know, the more you are going to enjoy your translation work. So let's read our translation example together. The Greek says, egeire ha kurios autos tous, the kaius anthropus dia ta erga auton. All right, so I have placed each word in the passing sheet and passed the words for us just for the sake of time. So let's go through each word together. The first one is egeire, So it's a verb, present tense form. Voice is active, mood is indicative. Persons is second person singular. Lexical form is a gay row, which we've just learned means I raise up. Then we have ha, which is an article. It's a nominative, masculine, singular. All right, it comes before the noun kurios, all right, which is also nominative, masculine, singular, from kurios, which means the Lord. And then we have autos, all right, so here we have the third person personal pronoun, all right. It's the nominative case. It's masculine and singular. All right, so can you see that it agrees with the noun in gender, number, and case? All right, and what position is it standing in? It's standing in the predicate position, which means we are going to translate autos here as self. Why? Because it's standing in it's functioning as an intensive pronoun. All right, then we have tous, which is an article. It's accusative, masculine, plural. All right, then we have dekaios, which is an adjective. All right, it's also accusative, masculine, plural from dekaios, which means righteous. Then we have anthropos, which is a noun. It's accusative, masculine, plural, right, from anthropos. So we can see here that dekaios, which is the adjective, is modifying anthropos, all right, and therefore it agrees in gender, number, and case, and standing in the attributive position. Then we have dia, which is the preposition we learned in our vocab, and we can see here that it's taken its object in the accusative case, and because it's in the accusative case, we are going to translate it as on account of or because of. Then we have ta, which is the article. It's accusative, neuter, plural. Then we have our noun erga, which is the object of the preposition dia. All right, it's also accusative, neuter, plural, from ergon, which means work. And then we have our tone. All right, so here is our third person personal pronoun. All right, it agrees with erga, the noun, in gender and number. Right, doesn't agree in case though. It's the genitive case. So it's not functioning as an intensive or identical pronoun. It's functioning as a normal third person personal pronoun. And so we are going to translate it as there because it's indicating possession in the genitive case. So let's translate this together very quickly. So our nominative form there is ha kurios. So it's the Lord. Autos, himself. Egere is raising up. Tous dekaios anthropos, the righteous men. Dia, all right, on account of or because of. Works, but it's possessive, all right, so it's their works. All right, so there you can see that the personal pronoun here is generally going to come after the noun. So as translation again, the Lord himself is raising up the righteous men because of their works. All right, our final translation example for today reads, hoi, douloi, Euriskusin, hemas, kai, the ducks are men, autus, kata, tain, aletheon. All right, look at the first word, hoi. All right, it's an article. It's a nominative, masculine, plural. All right, it's modifying the noun douloi, all right, which is also nominative masculine plural from doulos, which can be translated as slave or servant. Then we have the verb heuriskusin, all right, it's a verb, it's a present active indicative, third person plural. All right, so there we have an example of concord from heurisko, which is I find. Then we have heimas, which is a personal pronoun. All right, it's the accusative case. It's a second person plural. All right. And then we have kai, which is a conjunction, which we translate as and. Then we have the ducks are men. All right, so here you can see that we've had amalgamation here. So it's a verb, future. It's an active indicative, first person plural from didasko, which is I teach. All right, then we have un, which is a post positive, which we translate as then or therefore. Then we have autus, which is another third person personal pronoun. It's accusative, masculine, plural. Then we have kata, which is a preposition. All right, so in this example, it's taken its object in the accusative case. Therefore, we're going to translate it as according to. Then we have tain, which is the article. It's also accusative, feminine, singular. And the noun, which is functioning as the object of the preposition, is also accusative, feminine, singular from aletheia, which is the truth. So let's translate this one together. So hoi douloi, I'm going to use slaves here. So we have the slaves, which can also be the servants. Heuriskusin, all right, so the slaves are finding, right? Heimas, which is the direct object here, us. All right, then we have kai, the ducks are men, un. All right, so un is a post positive, we translated at the front of our English clause here. So we could say, therefore, we, all right, so there we get our subject from the verb ending, the amen. Therefore, we will, because it's future, also, all right, so that's how I'm going to translate kai here as also. Therefore, we will also do what? Teach, autus, them, kata, according to, tain aletheon, the truth. All right, so this is a little trickier than previous examples. So the translation reads, the slaves are finding us, comma, therefore we will also teach them according, all right, according to, should I say, the truth.